entrance. This was the activity. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, on the day in question, what we tried doing was to prevent buses from busing people right into the compound. But admittedly, the entire parliamentary premises does not belong to us. The state protocol area where funerals are conducted is virtually out of our control. On several occasions, funerals are organized there, vehicles are parked there, and we virtually have no idea. And sometimes these funerals can go deep into the night. So on the question of whether all these were properly admitted, Mr. Chairman, the whole environment is not ours. Had it been that we have an area carved out called Parliament, then we could probably ensure that strict access is granted into that space. But people are not particularly prevented from walking to the precinct because there are other institutions that we occupy the general area with.
So are you saying that it is not possible for the Marshal Department to put in place any measures to control the area that you would have considered to be the area for as against the whole area within the presence of Parliament? Do you have any place that you can carve out, and then that is the place where you can say that from this point we are in charge? Do you have any sighting?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We've made proposals, and I'm sure it's being considered by management, but it's still in the drafting point. So if that is considered, I'm sure a team might be constituted to see where best can be carved out and what measures we can put in place to make sure that there's a certain area we can at least have effective control over and put in place the proper access control measures so that uninvited guests are not then find their way into our close perimeters.
Finally, we understand, we have been made to understand as a committee that cards were issued to allow people to come into this particular place. The rest of the people were left outside, and there was nothing to use in controlling them. Do you think that that particular situation is helpful?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First of all, we reconfigured the foyer down there with a number of chairs. About 200 chairs were organized there with television screens on to transmit this process live for those who were coming and maybe it wasn't their time to come in. But Mr. Chairman, the numbers we had on that day, chiefs came. I mean, a chief would come with one invitation card, but he had 20 people following him. They are well accosted customarily. Even the police we had put in there to stop them, sometimes, as a matter of traditional courtesy, would end up, giving way for them to come because some of these people were elderly. And that was a challenge. So at the end of the day, they allowed them access up here just to see what was happening because they would tell you they came all the way from Wa, from Damango, and these were the challenges they had down there, even though we had put measures in place to prevent that if you didn't have a card, invitation card, you wouldn't find yourself into this room. But if a chief comes and his entourage is about 15, there's one card. Chiefs do not walk alone. Those were the challenges.
And so, would you say that the scheduling of the nominees in terms of the numbers for a particular day contributed to the large number of people who were around?
Mr. Chairman, I may not be able to talk to the scheduling of nominees on that day because my concentration was how best we could keep order here and make sure we don't have things escalating.
Thank you. That will be all for now.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Rank Commander, just out of curiosity, is there an official document that is handed over to the Marshal's Department to inform you of who is to be on the precincts of Parliament on any given day when we have the vetting of any nominees?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The understanding is that only invitees, people who have been given invitation cards, and these cards are supposed to be 10, are the ones allowed into the vetting room to support their nominees. But, Mr. Chairman, this is the people's house. If visitors say they are coming in to visit their MP, it becomes difficult for us, without prior authorization, to deny them that access. What we've noticed is that they say they're coming in to visit their MP, and instead of getting to their MP's floor or office, some of them find themselves here, and some of them, unfortunately, sometimes with the support of the MPs.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I'll ask the question again. Is there a document that comes to the Marshal's Department with the exact specification of who is meant to be in the appointments room on any given day? Officially, do you have a list of who is supposed to be here?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that document counts. But on this particular occasion, I think the certainty of who was to be vetted on the particular day, clarity wasn't there. And what I noticed was that on the Wednesday, we had to go and bring in Oliver Bruhaha. In fact, I had to take the summon to him. And so sitting was suspended. Was not done on that particular day. So I suspected that the leftover of the Wednesday were shifted to Thursday, which then increased the numbers, because most of those visitors for Wednesday had already come with supporters who were in the compound already, and where to sleep was a challenge. In fact, when we were going home on Wednesday, myself and my colleague, we realized people were making do with the spaces just to find a place to sleep, and it was pathetic, because most of these were elderly females.
Thank you. So, Honorable Chair, just to state for the record that there wasn't a formal communication to the Marshal's Department stating that there was a shift and there would be more people, and who those people were. Is that correct?
Is that correct?
None that I saw. I might need to confer with my colleague to see if he saw that formal communication. But to my person, I did not see that, because on that Wednesday, it was late when we took the summon to the gentleman who was supposed to appear here. On the other day. So I wasn't back enough to check the mails. So I would then need to confer with my colleague to see.
Please do confirm and let the clerk know before we finalize our report. We want it to be part of the report.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I would like to find out whether, apart from the invitation cards, people who were granted access were given tags or ID cards as proof of having been admitted.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. That's the normal visitors procedure. Once you enter the premises, you are directed to the Parliamentary Visitors Center, where some details of yours are taken, and then you are given a visitor's tag. And then you go to the particular floor or particular MP you are looking for. But on this particular said day, I think even way beyond the 1700 hours that normal visitors come in, others had trunked in. And frankly speaking, they didn't all go through the visitors center to get identification tags. So we kept most of those ones at bay down there, and they were in the foyer watching TV and watching the proceedings.
Thank you, Chairman. Just one question. We also a stranger among the peacekeepers. He said he was there as a peacekeeper. Let me ask you, in future, are we safe? Won't we be having more strangers when even Parliament is sitting? Won't we be having them? And two, would you recommend that we move the vetting process to a more secured places, especially Job 600 up there, if we can move the vetting process from this place to a more secure place so that it may restrict the number of people. Naturally, it will be easier to control than an open space like this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I wouldn't say anywhere in Job 600 will be more secure than here. But talking about a more secured venue where crowd control measures could be firmly employed, like I mentioned earlier, we've made a proposal which we sent to our clerk, and it's being looked at. So I'm sure when some consideration is given to it, I mean, communication will go up to speaker, I mean, the board, and maybe it might be considered.
Well, there was a question about a stranger who, as a marshal, you are supposed to provide security to members of parliament as well as the precinct and properties of parliament. You were here when we have to ask a stranger to go and come back on Monday. We saw him visibly moving from one end to the other, to the extent that he was even... Okay, so I'll leave that one. Now, did you notice that there was a stranger in the house?
Mr. Chairman, personally, I didn't until today. The fact is that our security personnel are all not still very familiar with all the MPs, especially the members coming in for the first time. And so we had encouraged all of them to always wear their identification tags. But, Mr. Chairman, unfortunately, some of them just do not wear those tags. Because when you wear those tags from a distance, our security personnel are able to know whether this is a staff, or this is a member of parliament, or this is a visitor. So we'll probably also still use this platform to appeal that even if it's difficult to wear, but we keep encouraging that you just wear it for us, because it's difficult to identify everybody. And myself and my senior colleague, we could not be in one place at all the times. We divided the work. We're going around to supervise the measures we've put in place. So unfortunately, I did not notice that stranger. And in fact, I didn't even know until he appeared this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marshal, do you think that perhaps your response could have been quicker when the chaos started and you entered? You were not in the room at that time, were you?
Mr. Chairman, around 21:45 was when we actually got up here, because we were controlling some other issues downstairs. And when we entered, what we usually want to do is that arguments and disagreements are allowed in this house because of the democratic dispensation. What we try to do is to prevent physical contacts, fisticuffs. So when we enter and members of parliament are screaming against each other, we diplomatically are able to assist with that, because if you try, you must walk a thin line, not to be seen as belonging to A or B. And in observing that thin line, we get a bit too careful before we intervene. And when we intervene, we end up putting our bodies in between the two so that they don't have an open fight. But
That still didn't answer my question, whether you think your response was on time or a bit delayed.
Mr. Chairman, it's a very difficult question for me, because until there were bangings on the tables and attempts at physical destruction of things, where we now asked in the other uniformed police to come in. But, Mr. Chairman, we had police in civil clothing who work with PPU. They were all in the room. We were all trying to do separations, calm down issues, try to mediate. I had to pull a number of MPs to the adjoining offices just to convince them that there was no need for us to go into this, because cameras were watching, and some of it worked. So those are some of the things we're doing behind the cameras and behind the scenes. But as to whether the intervention was early or timely, the difficult thing is that if we move in 20 or 30 policemen into the room, it may be seen as intimidation. It may be seen that you're trying to intimidate the process, and so you are not trying to allow the process to take its normal course. So we do all this balancing, and when we realize it's getting out of hand, then we move in the uniform personnel.
Okay. Were you given the schedule? In fact, are you given the schedule for vetting? Typically, is your department given the schedules?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we are given a schedule for vetting.
So you're given for that day as well?
I explained the circumstances of that day that I would verify with my colleague and get back.
Okay. Do you screen people for, because of the crowd in the corridor and within, did you actually screen people? Somebody may be holding a weapon, a knife, something. Did that take place?
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. The challenge with those crowds it's just one of the issues the honorable member has mentioned, and we're looking at measures at which, even from the main entrance, all such screening will take place. But like I mentioned earlier, having complete and thorough screening of people from the main entrances to the Princess of Parliament, where we do not completely own, becomes a bit of a challenge.
Okay, so my last question is, as marshals, you see to the whole premises, but there are times when people, even on ordinary days, they come into the lifts and they can meander their way through all the corridors and all that. That also falls within your purview, doesn't it? And what are you doing about that?
Mr. Chairman, it does. Most of our corridors have access doors, which can be opened with your ID card and badges. But respectfully, I don't know about honorable members, but most staff sometimes don't use the access badges to open the doors. And even in some of the floors in Job 600, realize members, because some of them don't wear their ID cards, which have access to open the corridors, the doors are left opened. And so one visitor who says is coming to second floor ends up at the 8th floor. Because ideally, when you go to the visitor center, you are only directed to that particular floor. And there are receptionists on each floor to help you access that particular MP and step out. But the challenge is that the visitor comes and then decides that he has remembered another MP he wants to see on another floor. And then the floor door is opened. So he might just end up getting there. We're trying to put in place measures to make sure we have men on all the floor. But as it is now, because of challenges in manpower and resources, we're not able to effectively man those things to make sure that loiterers don't find their way into your lifts and the corridors.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your insight.
Wind Commander Bauer, I have only one question for you. From some of the MPs and witnesses that came, we heard them clearly say that there were press conferences. Some of their colleagues were on TVs mentioning that they were going to grill them. They have two of them who were to be grilled, or who do not allow them to go through the vetting. These are all early warning signals. Did you pick that signal yourself?
Mr. Chairman, no, I didn't.
But do you have any intelligence in here that picks signals that there's going to be a chaos on that day?
Mr. Chairman, the intelligence we picked was that we were going to be overwhelmed with crowd. That much we did. So we requested for assistance from the police to give us more men. But even then with that, but as to whether there will be chaos on the vetting room, I would see that as maybe one particular member may be given a lot of questions. We didn't anticipate the chaos being members of parliament getting at each other.
I hope you have reported this to management officially. You've given your report about the situation to management.
Mr. Chairman, that is true.
Okay. So we can get that report from management to aid us in writing our report.
Well, Mr. Chairman, it's been forwarded to the clerk's office. I don't know whether we'll then we'll talk to him and see whether we can forward the same to you.
No, not from you. We'll talk to the clerk ourselves and pick it from him.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
So there was a report on the chaos?
Yes, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Wing Commander Bauer, you are humbly discharged. Thank you for attending upon this committee. When we need anything else, we'll call you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We will finally take our sister, the Honorable Minister for Fisheries, who will have to take an oath. But because she was not here when we showed the initial videos, I don't know whether she would like to watch the videos first. Okay.
Sorry?
This is Channel 1 Television. My name is Nanatufo Boateng, and you're watching our live coverage of that committee hearing, a public hearing by the special committee set up by the Speaker, Alban Bagbin, to investigate the happenings on the night of January 30 and the morning of January 31 at the Appointments Committee, a committee tasked to vet ministerial nominees of His Excellency the President John Dramani Mahama. On this said night and in the early hours of January 31, there was a chaos that characterized that process. Just before we came back into the studio, the Minister for Fisheries and Aquaculture had attended upon the invitation of the committee. A video was being played to her. We believe which video has now ended. She's been able to identify herself. And so let's go back to that committee for the public hearing.
I hope you have watched except of the video, not the full video. Please, did you see a lady who looks like the Minister for Fisheries and Aquaculture?
Yes, Chairman, it was me.
So, can you tell us what you were doing here on that fateful day?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a member of Parliament, I had come here to participate in the process, and two, to support some of the people who were being vetted on that day, especially the Minister for Health. And I think there were a number of other people who were supposed to be vetted that day. So I'd come here to give moral support. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So can you brief this committee what exactly you witnessed on that day? In brief, summary.
Thank you very much. I was sitting right here to my right, where this gentleman was sitting. And one vetting had finished, and we're getting ready for the other one, particularly Honorable Akandos. And so the usual practice is the nominee will be invited and will take the oath. So we were like, clerk, administer the oath. And the clerk was straight-faced and can you administer the oath so that the vetting will start? And she said, I recall. She said, no, I am waiting for instructions from my leadership. So we were here, and then by the time I realized there was some noise going on in the front where you are sitting, the next time I see a chair on the table. The next thing I see some of the members of the minority walk over here where Honorable Akando was standing, and they were surrounding him. And that was when I got alarmed because, and then some majority MPs also moved here and shoved the minority MPs away from Honorable Akando, and they took position. So that was when I was talking to some people who were standing there. What is all this about? I mean, I was Parliament. What is all this about?
Were you traumatized?
I was.
Or surprised?
I was like, hey.
So
not frightened. We've seen some before, but I did not, for the life of me, expect that from having just finished one vetting, one person, and we're just moving on to the next person, and suddenly all hell breaks. All hell breaks loose, and I was amazed to see a whole member of Parliament carrying a chair and putting it on the table. The next time I saw pushing tables away, I saw microphone being shifted away. And in all of that, what amazed me was the calmness of the clerk. She was so calm, just sitting down, so very professional. I mean, she has class.
Aka fanti misumaka igwe cho. You seems to not to be clearly here on that day from your narration. You only witness part and parcels from your narration, even though you were here physically.
I was here, sitting here. And so I didn't quite understand what happened in front there that resulted in the lifting of
Good,
chair.
exactly. That's what I wanted to hear. Now, was there, you just mentioned that you saw some members from the majority side came to the rescue of Honorable Akando. Can you identify those majority from the majority side?
Yes, I mean, one MP from Western North region, when I see him, I'll see him. I know the name, but it's not coming now.
So we'll show you a picture now
Okay.
for you to identify whether he was the one.
Okay, sir. Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Chairman, it's also in this video. I don't know if I can. Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, one of them is Mr. Kwame Pius, the Sefia Kontomra MP. He came by to shove away the minority MPs that had come to surround Honorable Akando. Then there's a second one I can see in the video back. His picture I haven't seen.
Thank you very much for at least identifying one person. Now, honorable colleagues, do you have any question for the witness?
Thank you, Chair. I want to find out. You said the honorable member for Akontomra came to give some protection. Was he under any threat at that time? And who was that person?
So, when the scuffle started, when it was about the clerk, some of us around were saying to the clerk, administer the oath, administer the oath. And she was like, no, I'm waiting for my leader. And then the front there became, hey. Then 2 minority MPs moved to Akontombra, to Honorable Akando, who was standing here. And I'm not a mind reader. I don't know what was going on in the minds of the majority MPs. But I think then they quickly moved and came and sort of removed the minority MPs away from their colleague, Honorable Akando, and they took position there. I don't know whether it was for protection or whatever, but that's what they did, and I think it's just a natural thing to want to protect your own. Nobody knew what would have happened here as a result of all that carrying of chairs.
So can we also identify those minority members of parliament who moved from their location to where the nominee, can you identify them?
When I see the pictures, I can identify. I remember one fair-colored one. I don't recollect the name, but when I see the pictures, I'll be able to tell. Yeah.
We'd like to show you some pictures if we'll be able to identify that person.
Yes, I recognize Mr. Shaib Ahmed Jerry Wejagbawi. I recognize him being one of the people who came to. His intention for coming to stand by Honorable Akando, I cannot tell, but certainly he was one of them who came to stand by him. And I remember me saying, what are you people doing here? What are you people doing there? Then Pius and the other came and took over.
So that is the second deputy minority whip, one of the members who were suspended and recalled back. Okay. Any other further questions? Yours was so short. Thank you very much for attending upon this committee. We are grateful to you, Honorable Minister. We will call you again when the need arises. You are discharged.
Thank you very much, Chair.
So, honorable colleagues, we have been able to take witnesses, about 10 out of the 18. We have Honorable Ahin, Honorable Konis Dauda, Honorable Dominic Bigna Adana Nitiwo, Honorable Charles Asiedu, Honorable Patricia J., Honorable Pius Kwame Nkwa, who was just identified by Honorable Minister for Fisheries. These are the honorable members who were supposed to appear before us today, Friday, since it was postponed. And they were not able to make it. We've not had any indication from the clerk as to why they will not be able to attend to this committee. And so we will request respectfully that you invite them in addition to the following members of parliament who are supposed to be here on Monday. Honorable Alexander Peño Makin, Honorable Frank Anodompre, Honorable Roxanne Nelson Eche Kwame Dapamakpo, Honorable Jerry Ahmed Shaib, Honorable Alhassan Tampoli Suleimana, Honorable Michael Ochribefi, Honorable Rudolph Amaku Jampa, Honorable Mustafa Yusuf, Dr. Fred Chei Asamoah, Honorable, and then you add again Mr. George Glory Opeku, and Honorable Samuel Kujeto Ablakwa to witness for him. He is to come with his counsel. On that note, I want to thank all of you. We have come to the end of today's sitting. We will continue with the public hearing, and I want to repeat it again. We'll continue with the public hearing again on Monday, 10 o'clock, to continue with this time around to find out exactly, especially those who are involved in the breaking of chairs, tables, and so on and so forth. And so, members of the media, we will ask and beg of you that Monday you'll be with us. The Clerk of Parliament will also be joining us on Monday as well. We've invited him, and so he should be here because he was visibly seen in the video as well. Thank you very much for coming to cover this investigation. And we hope that by the end of Monday, we'll come to a conclusion and our report will be sent to the Speaker. We also add that we've requested Mr. Speaker to extend 2 more days. We're supposed to present our report on Monday, but since we have lost 2 days, we requested Mr. Speaker to extend a day, at least give us 2 more days, to Thursday, so that Thursday we can present our report. We thank you all for coming, and God bless our homeland.
Okay, so it's been hours of questioning, some witness.